ISIMOD has been interacting and engaging with private sector for the last 3 years, and we have actually been able to show some partnership. Recently, some of the partnership are actually going on the ground. So that's quite encouraging development that we are having. Before I go to some of those examples, maybe some of the expectations that we see from this particular session, I would like to say here to the panelists as well as to the audience participants. I think this is one of the first dialogue forever that we are organizing in terms of ISIMOD in such a big forum. So that's very, very interesting for us. We see that this is an opportunity for us to see innovations in engaging private sector in the inclusive development. So the way we are going to put the recommendation in the final day tomorrow, we would like to see this session will also contribute how we would like to move in future. Then we also see that private sector is one of the responsible agent of change in a positive direction for people as well as environment security. I think this is more and more we see private sector has to come in this direction, and the knowledge partner is going to be quite critical, and institutions like ISIMOD has a very important role to play if the private sector has to play that role in future. Then the private sector partnership, of course, which we are discussing and developing for last few years, we see, I think this relationship is quite important if we are thinking of sustainable means of work at the national level, regional level. So there is a sustainability component and impact component. If we work with you, there is definitely economic development. There is definitely, if we look into the environment safety in some of our programs, then we can link both environment and development and balance that very much. So that is what we would like to see. In Nepal also, we have worked on the agriculture market information here with FNCCI, and this has shown some good progress for future. So I see in our value chain also, we have worked with many small market private sectors, and there we have seen there are benefits that can really can bring to this partnership. There is a win-win situation, and we can do something for the target beneficiary. I think knowledge is going to be quite critical. ISIMOD has been working in this region for 30 years. We are now celebrating 30 years anniversary now. And this knowledge and the knowledge products which we are preparing can be optimally used in developing this partnership and the experience. And ISIMOD can also bring or convene the technical experts with private experts and the actual beneficiaries through various programs at the regional scale, not only national or local level, but also regional scale. I think these are some good opportunities, and I would say that I see a great future with the private partnership. And I would like to stop here because we would like to listen more from the partners here as panelists. Thank you very much.
If you look at normally when we look at conferences on poverty and vulnerability on development, the private sector is the actor which is missing in these forums. And we thought we have to bring in the private sector because you see the question that we are asking. If we don't bring that in, we have heard the whole day today the importance of linking up with the private sector. And let's hear it from the panelists here. That was the objective of why we have this forum here in the conference.
Let me just take a few minutes to introduce the topic and also the set of questions that we've been asked to address in this session by ISIMOD. To set the scene, I thought maybe let me dissect the fairly long title of the session into 3 elements. What are we talking about in this session today? I think the first very much relates to the overall theme of this conference and the topic of responsible and inclusive development. And specifically, obviously, in this session, what role for business in that context? And secondly, we're talking about approaches to partnering, partnerships between governments and development agencies with the private sector, and how really very concretely and very practically we go about working together and bringing together very different types of actors, which frankly often speak very different languages, how we really tackle that in a practical manner. And thirdly, and I think most importantly, how do we re-understand good business practices? How do we understand sustainable business practices that focus not only on responsibility and looking at minimizing or mitigating potentially negative impacts on societies, on the environment, on economies, but starting to think beyond that? How can we envisage business strategies that create meaningful and measurable impacts towards addressing poverty and vulnerability whilst still being profitable business models? Because, of course, we are talking about business strategies and we're not asking companies to become development agencies. And what that probably means is quite a fundamental rethinking of business as usual, to look at new ways of doing business in maybe a more longer term perspective. And for that, of course, I think it's absolutely essential to have businesses in the room and to start a dialogue on what that means from a business perspective and how we can start understanding each other around some of these areas where we assume that we have common goals on sustainable development. If we could start with you, sir, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
What we think is that the business has to survive in the long run. We have to make profit. And we have to survive in the long run. We need the market, and the income of the people needs to go up. If we look at, generally, the misconception, especially among the developmental workers, is that the business goes only where there is large cities, big consumers or high-spending consumers. It is not the case. If you look at the fast-moving FMCG companies, if you look at their chains, supply chains, what they are working very hard today to go to the rural market to make profit. They will go where the profit is. Here, the development workers, when we say the partnership between the development, sustainable business partnership between the development and the business has to be involved. One thing that I would like to see is that we should see some profit. They should learn to talk in the language of the business, that there is profit in each of these activities, and the business would be sustainable in the long run. Sustainable not in the sense of generally when we talk of sustainable business or sustainable development, something like the environmental issues only. But here I am talking about the sustainability of the business itself, the business model itself. That is quite important. As FNCCI, we have come to the conclusion that we need to devote attention to the development of the district. We need to creating opportunities in the district itself. And that we have started an initiative called One Village, One District, One Product. It is One Village, One Product. That is, we are basically it is identifying its district with some product and trying to develop that product and have value addition in that. We are looking at what is feasible in that area and how we can create the business. One thing I would like to end is that we need to make, for sustainable business to happen, we need to understand the language of the profit. We need to make, in case of Nepal, what I think, we need to make a lot of entrepreneurs. We need to make a lot of create new businesses. And we need to make the business profession a reputable profession and profit a respectable word. Thank you.
I think you've mentioned some very important aspects, namely around, well, businesses will go where markets are, and if we're looking at sustainable business models, then we need to look at business models that make business sense, essentially. Maybe you can continue in that vein a little bit, Mr. Baragai, to explain what that means for your company and what has worked and where maybe some of the challenges are for you as well. Thank you.
I see that there are three sectors involved here: the government, the developmental sector, as well as the private sector. Typically, from a private sector perspective, government is something we would be happy if they didn't interfere with the business. Second, the social sector we know nothing about. The developmental sector we know nothing about, In fact, I'm glad that I'm getting to vent out my questions or my inquisitiveness about what the sector does over here. Except for one good note that I carry is these are a bunch of people with good intentions. Another question about inclusive growth when it comes, why certainly for the last few years we've been talking about private sector driven inclusive growth. Why certainly private sector? We talk about inclusive business, we talk about private sector enabled business, we talk about private sector being the driver of the business. Confuses me, or when I say me, I talk on behalf of the private sector tremendously. Makes me wonder, what is the role of the other two then, government and the social sector? Is it to put pressure on us to do business the way they conceive to do, they want us to do? As a private sector, my question would be, are we supposed to be the enablers or are we supposed to be the drivers? I'm sure you guys have clarity on what you guys are saying, but private sector doesn't understand this. For us to understand, you got to speak our language. As Dr. Dawadi just mentioned, profit. We borrow. We need to deliver ROI, return on investment. And we are not a business the moment we forget our ROIs. So, I think it is very important that this sector, with all due respect, needs to speak, if we are to fit into the larger goal, needs to speak our language. When we go to the government, we speak their language because we have our ends to meet with the government. Similarly, if it's a larger goal, probably you need to speak our language and we need to learn your language as well. We have been the engine of growth, but I'm not too sure how we could be the engine of inclusive growth. Because we have our own set of limitations which may be very different from what it could be perceived sitting outside. What I would like to also emphasize here is what you need to understand about private sector is what excites them. For private sector, inclusive growth is very ambiguous. We understand growth, we don't understand inclusive growth. We understand value addition, we understand partnerships. So under pressure, sometimes we give in to CSR, PPP, all those things, but we are driven by our business values. Our bottom lines and our top lines are very, very important to us, and that is the philosophy under which we work. We haven't seen too many, there are good examples, but we haven't seen too many of them happening. So, to me, what does an inclusive growth mean? From a private sector perspective, to me, inclusive growth means creating or attempting synergies, be it with anybody, everybody, bringing or linking the regional advantages of the businesses into the mainstream, scaling up businesses, creating a good ecosystem where cumulatively we do big and efficient business, and participative integration. I can give you a few examples as what we are doing at Nimbus. There's a lot of business happening everywhere. And sometimes it's not so organized. We being in the poultry sector, that's our core sector, what we started doing is we started training poultry farmers. And we didn't limit our poultry training to our own farmers. We said it is to the industry. We see our role as more of a market providers to the farmers rather than getting into farming ourselves. So we don't want to be competitors to them. We cannot be, because if we want to grow, we need to grow together. So this is our model of inclusiveness. So we feel that private sector could be the driver, but the government and development sector has to take the responsibility of identifying the linkages and enabling them. They have to play the catalyst role. We need to understand and respect each other better by creating more examples for ourselves first and then for others.
Thank you very much for some very, I think, useful and frank remarks, starting with obviously this focus on we need to speak the same language. We need to actually understand each other and understand what exactly are each other's roles if we really are to work together more effectively. So thank you very much for that. Another very interesting example and lots of experience in putting these challenging things into action. We'll hear from Mr. Nair from Reuters Market Light.
We as a private player are into whatever we do for profit. We are into business. We also are very aware that unless the end beneficiary benefits, we would not be in the business for too long. And in our case, the end beneficiary is the farmer. And it's not farmer of a particular district in a particular states. It's farmers across 17 states in India, some states as big or bigger than some European nations. It's very important for us to synergize with various stakeholders in the agri-value chain. And these are not farmers alone. These could be government agencies, these could be quasi-government, these could be NGOs. But then unless there are synergies which are visible to both players, it doesn't really, play out. At the end of the long chain or at the end of the road is the farmer waiting for, to see what kind of benefits he could derive. And what we have done is, besides giving farmers information on how to grow a better crop, how to get better yields, how to take care of the vagaries of nature through different information services that we provide, we've also gone further ahead, giving them, advisories, giving them content on enhancement of their livelihood. A case I would like to quote is work we have done with women self-help groups in the state of Uttarakhand, where the focus group was just women who come from the marginalized and the poorer sects of society, where we had given them information, where we have disseminated content on better nutrition, better health and hygiene, better education, aspects of financial literacy. However, what I would like to emphasize on is that what we are in business for is to go the long haul. We would like to work with the lower sects of society, with the poorer sects of society. Not that we do not address the progressive farmers and the well-to-do farmers. Uttarakhand, the state of Uttarakhand, has the privilege, or otherwise you could mention that it has the poorest of the farmers, the most marginalized, and amongst the most progressive of farmers. If you go to the Tarai region of Uttarakhand, you have some of the most prosperous and flourishing farmers you would ever meet. Some as good, if not better, than their American counterparts. And if you go to the higher regions, the hilly regions, you find people who are very marginal, for whom getting a linkage to the market means probably everything in the world. However, we would like to just re-emphasize that we are here to provide better benefits to the end beneficiary, as well as derive some profits in the process. And I hope we will be able to make our stamp in the months and years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think another example, and I think very helpful emphasis on having to really look for those synergies. Where can we function as successful businesses whilst at the same time meeting some of those needs of local farmers and the business models that go with it? Thank you very much. Ambassador Chin, the word's yours.
Yeah, thank you. Some of my fellow panelists' comments. I think one big challenge is that we all speak different languages, and there's actually a lack of respect. I was talking to one of the people in the audience, and they said, what are you doing here? And I said, actually, of course, I have an ADB-X hat, but I have a private sector hat. And the reply was, oh, you're one of the bad guys. And I think we all need to move beyond these stereotypes because, I've been lucky enough in my career to work in the private sector, in government, and with civil society. And if I were to sum up the views of each of the other, business bad, civil society naive, government corrupt. And so the new lingo these days is not public-private partnerships. It's this tri-sector partnership. But the view is this tri-sector partnership is a partnership of the bad, the naive, and the corrupt. We're really not getting anywhere. So to be prescriptive, so how do we build that respect and understanding? I think, and I congratulate ICIMOD, this is a first step. It's probably like 55 minutes of 4 days of a forum, but it is an important first step. And so I think we all need to understand what we mean by the private sector. And I would say to each of you, then think through who we want to target And so, when I'm in my old marketing hat, I'd say the most important thing is one, your message. What are we trying to say? But more importantly, who are we trying to reach? And who are we trying to say it to? And so as ICIMOD and others think about what are the businesses most likely to be the ones that would partner with them first, I think the reality is that you, not business, have to make the business case. And so as a business person, I love data. I love research. And again, to be prescriptive, I look at these bookshelves here of all these ICIMOD reports. And I was saying to some of my fellow panelists, I don't know if most business people would read any of these reports. I'm not saying that they aren't read, because maybe you all, government, civil society, read them. And maybe that's the audience for these reports. But if I'm a business person, I would think, wouldn't it be great if ICIMOD gave me some data that actually then I don't have to pay for about some of the unique things that I would get from these mountain communities. And so when I talk to government, I talk to civil society, they also are so diverse. Wearing my old Asian Development Bank hat, I can tell you that in dealing with actually the governments of the 8 nations that make up ICIMOD, I don't think any ever said to me, my priority is the mountain areas. Their priorities are roads, bridges, water supplies for large urban areas. And so we need to think through what influences some of these actors. And so from a business perspective, if I worry about government, it's because I'm fearful they're going to regulate me to death. So I'm going to think through what should I be doing that government will like and respect, and usually has nothing to do with the mountain community. It's, can you help me in my urban area, or help me where my voters are from, or other reasons that have nothing to do with what you all have been talking about these last 2 years. So, think about, again, your messaging, who you're trying to reach. But when we talk about business, corruption is an enemy of business. And the other piece of data I would share with you is go look up online the World Bank's Doing Business report, the ease of doing business. Of all these 8 countries, I think they look at 200 countries. Of these 8 countries, actually China does the best. But even China is ranked number 80. And so, good for China. But when you think about all these other nations that are in ICIMOD, they're all worse in the World Bank assessment of how to do business there. And so again, if I'm an investor and I look at this, why would I invest in any of these countries when I can invest elsewhere? So government, you know what you need to do. You need to create that enabling environment for business, address issues like rule of law and corruption if you really want investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, time is very tight, but this is a dialogue. So I would like to very briefly at least open the floor to take 2 or 3 questions.
My question is to Mr. Dawadi, and I believe the representative from Nimbus also could join in. My direct question is, where does the ROI and the development partners goal actually meet?
You raised a number of questions regarding inclusiveness and drivers and enablers. So here is a response from the public sector. When we talk about inclusiveness and inclusive growth, that means people-centered growth. What's the job of the government sector or the public sector? That is to make inclusiveness profitable. That's, you talked about that we need to, the public sector has to understand the language of the private sector, and private sector has to understand the language of the public sector, and then there is a productive partnership. So the public sector's stance is that inclusiveness is profitable for the private sector. So is the CSR, corporate social responsibility. It is not something in charity, it is something that is profitable for the private sector as well. So the growth should be driven by the private sector. My point is that it should be driven by the private sector, but the private sector should take the people along. They shouldn't leave the people behind. It shouldn't be a solo walk. And the government sector speaks for the 99% of the people, and so do the development sector people. So our wishes are not only just the wishes, they represent the voices of the 99% of the people. Thank you.
Thank you to that lady. I didn't get your name, I'm sorry, but I do understand that, and what I'm trying to emphasize on this note is that there needs to be more dialogue with private sector involved, and private sector apology to all of you here that we don't understand you too well. I'm sorry. But we need to understand you better. Balance between ROI and social sector or development and sector investment. That's a very tricky question that if social sector is investing into something, does it mean that I don't look at my ROI? Or vice versa, if social sector has an important agenda where there is a social benefit, should it not be done whether private sector is involved or not? I can answer this in only questions, but this is a very tricky balance that we need to arrive at. And only thing, if I was to partner with you or the project that you're bringing in, I would look at if there is a social benefit happening and it's not hampering me in any way, I probably would give in. Or you have to show me a picture which probably I have not been able to see and would be consolidating my business in over a longer period of time. But one of the two must happen.
What we do today when we are trying to develop that Connect platform, bringing the end beneficiary to the marketplace and service providers, we are looking at all these various players in the value chain to enable what you are referring to. And just as a case and example, what we saw this morning in this morning's presentation is about bay leaves, how bay leaves are coming to India, and Nepal being one of the largest producers of bay leaves, and bay leaf being a very important ingredient in the Indian spice market. I think it's not a remote possibility, it's a very strong possibility. But yes, we do have to harness technology and the various other players in the value chain to make it a possibility.
Maybe I think the key takeaway from this session is that indeed 50 minutes are just not enough for what we all agree is a very important dialogue. So maybe if we can leave the session with just a note for future reference that this is an important dialogue started, but we really need to be sticking our heads together to continue that dialogue in various platforms and in constructive ways. Ensure that we do actually understand each other. Ensure that we identify the areas where there are true synergies. Ensure that we start phrasing some of the key issues we're looking in form of business models so that we actually can start moving forward jointly. Thank you very much.